to realize our need for God, to make time to spend alone time with Him, that we wouldn't need a priest or a preacher because God gave us a Savior, that gave us access to a Father, that when we submit to a process, not of our making, but of His, we can be initiated as men into true masculinity, that we can be led by Him so we learn how to lead, that we can be loved by Him so we learn how to love. This is Ponds and Beavers. Hey guys, let's talk about relationships. I've been reading through this book for a while. It takes me a while to get through books. I'll kind of go through the same chapter, the same pages sometimes, and God will when I do that, God will speak more and more to me. So I try to take my time, all it to say, and patience is something that sometimes is hard for me. So anyways, the book's called Becoming a King by Morgan Snyder, and I want to talk about relationships. And so something he said that really stood out to me was, and I'll just read it: relationships are messy and vulnerable. They're the place in our lives where we have the least control of outcomes. And as with all work of great meaning, true relationships will require sacrifice and are disruptively inefficient by design. So there's a lot to unpack there, and we can kind of go through that. But man, that last part, and I want to start with this. Yeah, sure, they require sacrifice. I think we all understand that, but they are disruptively inefficient by design. I couldn't help but think how many of us, especially men, design with great intentionality. We design our lives to be efficient. I don't think there's many men who wake up and with intention tell themselves, I'm going to be very inefficient today on purpose. I don't think. It makes me laugh because that's literally the opposite of when I wake up. And it's constant. Efficiency is, I'll just be honest. To me, efficiency means smooth. And smooth means you get things done faster. And a lot of times I will get caught up more in quantity over quality. And it's ironic because God is always fighting for the opposite. He's always fighting for quality. But anyways, there's a battle there, I think, for us as men. But we do not wake up every morning with inefficiency as our captain, right, and leader. Efficiency is our captain and leader, and we are definitely glad to hop on the ship of efficiency, right, and follow wherever that ship leads us. And so, but what stood out to me was how he describes relationships being disruptively inefficient by design. I couldn't help but think about this too. If our lives, our day-to-day lives, revolve around being efficient, and relationships are disruptively inefficient, it's no wonder that a man's number one struggle, from observation, not only in myself, which is obviously a lot because I'm with myself every day, but observing other men around me over a decade. So it's myself and observing other men that I would say with confidence, it has got to be the number one thing that we as men struggle with, is this mysterious, sort of hard to understand, hard to grasp, hard to wrap our minds around. And I think that's the problem as a rabbit trail, but as a problem, that's a problem. Relationships, it doesn't come from this. It's from this. And so We've failed right from the beginning if that's what we try to do, is wrap our minds around this thing that we call relationships. Whether it's marriage, whether it's friendships, whether it's family. Guys, this has got to be one of, if not one of the number one struggle. God, you know what? No, I will say it is our number one struggle is relationships. Why? It blew my mind how simple this is, guys, but we tend to prioritize efficiency over every single thing around us. We prioritize efficiency. And don't get me wrong, I believe it is a God-given strength. I should say it's meant to be a strength, right? We're able to accomplish great things and do a lot in just a day's time. Being efficient with time, being efficient with resources, being efficient with those around us, what we would consider work relationships, communication. Efficient communication can solve some of the biggest problems we face. But there's that efficiency, and guys, what'll happen is we can prioritize efficiency so much that it directly affects the relationships around us, the relationships that we're in, the relationships that God has given us responsibility over. And so those disruptive inefficiencies that are inevitable, that come from relationships, I can definitely see, as God is revealing this to me this morning, I can see, God, that's so true. You're so right about that. And thank you, God, for revealing that to us. Thank you for fathering us and loving us so much to show us this, because, guys, this affects our marriage. This affects our friendships. This affects our family relationships. It affects where we work, the work we put our hands to, and the relationships that are involved with that. It affects every single part of our life. Guys, God intentionally put relationships at the core of everything. I remember when he showed me that truth a while back, it blew my mind. Relationships are literally at the core of everything. Everything comes from relationships, whether it's your workplace, whether it's your endeavors in maybe you're going to school, or I don't know, maybe you're starting your own business, or starting a ministry, or whatever endeavor it is, whether it's spending time with your kids. That's really obvious that it revolves around relationship. But guys, you can go down every single thing in your life. It involves people, and with people come relationships. And if our lives revolve around efficiency, the default, the corresponding result of that will always be pushing relationships out, and definitely not prioritizing relationships. And if we ought to prioritize anything, guys, we ought to be prioritizing relationships. And that brings me to something really sobering to think about. That we would dare have God revolve around our lives and our misconceptions of wrong priorities, and have God revolve around us rather than us and our life revolve around God. Because you better believe if we do that with relationships with other humans, you better believe we are already doing that with our relationship with God. Relationships are messy and vulnerable. I would dare to say they're messy because of vulnerability. But vulnerability is a necessity to relationship. It's a necessity to intimacy, guys. You want more intimacy with your wife, more intimacy in your relationships, your brother to brother, friendships. Vulnerability. It will lead to intimacy by its very design, by its very nature. They're the place in our lives where we have the least control of outcomes. Guys, that's another turnoff for us. We as guys want to be in control, and it turns us off to the fact that relationships are wild. They're wild and untamed, right? Because we are wild and untamed. We don't want to be tamed, and we want to make our own decisions and our own choices, and we have a God-given free will. But that leads to inconsistencies. That leads to a wildness that leads to complexities where we can't control the outcome of relationships, right? And so because of that, Morgan goes on to say, true relationships require sacrifice. So it takes sacrifice to die to what we want, to die to what's convenient for us, what's efficient for us. We have to die to that. We have to say, you know what? And we have to accept this. Relationships are never going to be convenient. And guys, we are living in a delusional bubble if we ever entertain the lie that says relationships will ever be convenient. And if we are trying to make relationships convenient, it's no wonder the marriage is not what it should be, what it could be. It's no wonder the friendships aren't what they could be or what they should be. It's no wonder our relationship with God is not what it could be and what it should be. If we're demanding the relationships around us, including ours with God, we're demanding it be convenient, right? There's that word again, convenient. It's not efficient, guys. It will never be convenient. It will never be convenient to make time to get away and get alone with God. It'll never be convenient to make time and get away and get alone with your wife, to get away and get alone with a friend, to have coffee with him, sit down, have a heart-to-heart. Turn off your mind and all the goals and all the time crunches and schedules and blah, 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 blah. All our obsession with efficiency, we have to turn that off and make room. You guys, you want to fight? You want to fight anything? You want to fight anyone? Fight for relationships. Fight for making room for inefficiency. Make room for what disrupts our efficient routines and schedules. Something me and my wife were talking about the other day was this simple prayer. God, I want you and I allow you and give you consent to disrupt my day. I give you the right and authority to come in and disrupt. I want you to interrupt my day, interrupt my perfect, really not perfect, but perfect inefficiencies and like I said, time crunches and schedules and all these things that we just obsess over and revolve our lives around. God, come and interrupt that. Right? Basically, the point is this. The only way out of this vicious cycle is God. And guys, don't start with your wife, okay? Because you're going to fail. Don't start with friendships. Don't start with any other relationship but this one relationship. Your relationship with God, start with that, okay? Because guess what? You fail, you make a mistake, you mess up, you forget to prioritize God over other things. There's a lot more cushion and forgiveness and a lot more grace to empower us to be able to do it that God will give you. He's the source. Our wife can't give us grace and empower us. Our wife sometimes might struggle for forgiving and our wives are not God. Our friends are not God. No one else can be God. No pastor, no teacher, no podcast, no book. Nothing we read, nothing else can replace God, guys. And when we learn to give up this obsession with efficiency, and when we learn to do that with God, the inefficiency of being still and knowing that He is God, the inefficiency of not doing anything, but sitting there and being silent and quiet, and just being, rather than doing, just being with God. When we learn that art of just being with God, guys, it'll change everything, and it will save us from what the world is obsessed with, and what really is destroying the world, destroying marriages, destroying everything. Like I say every time, make time to get away and get alone with God. Okay? So until next time, make time to get away and get alone with God, guys. Yeah, all right. Talk soon. Bye-bye.